I
How
love
many videos of me being an idiot.
Dude, I love that final scene, Rod. Yo, welcome to another episode of the Road FS Detail Bookie Podcast for another great conversation. Dude, we had a great weekend, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a great weekend playing with airplanes and sweating to death in Houston.
Oh God, it's freaking hot. I don't know how anybody lives in that neck of the woods, but
dude,
they fly airplanes all day. That's how they cool down.
Right. They have air conditioning.
That's crazy. So anyway, welcome. We have some amazing guests. We have Timothy and Ryan Griggs from Blue Line Detailing. So welcome. Hey, I'm just reading his name. So
I thought that was for us. I didn't know that would be there, my man.
No, that's for everybody.
No, that's for everybody. So Timothy.
That's how I spell it, actually.
That's good. Well, welcome, guys. We're super excited to sit down with you guys because you guys are like the perfect example of what can be done when we get out of the mindset of strictly competitors and get into the mindset of collaborators. So let's talk about that because, man, you guys are doing some fun projects together. You're growing together. You're serving your customers. Let's dig into that.
So do you want to tell them the story on how we met, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Timothy.
No, I'm talking to him. He's frozen.
I know, but he's just standing there like, you know.
Oh, he was
frozen. Sorry, we had to wake him up.
There we go.
Am I frozen?
Do you want to tell the story, or do you want me to? You were for a second.
Yeah. You always tell it better.
So MTE last year, not like this past February, last year, all the detailers of the roundtable rented a house together. So, Kirk and Beth are telling us the instructions, like where to go, how to get there, so we all check in. Yeah, we all check in with them when we get there, right? So he shows up at like midnight, doesn't check in with anybody, parks his rental car and just goes to bed. That's fine, right? But like after we tell him where we are, he doesn't say, "Hey, I'm here. Hey, thanks, I found the house. I'm taking I'm going to sleep. I'll see you guys in the morning." So like, it's like 3 a.m. and we're like, we don't know where this person is. So like, we know that people are like at the house and we've all kind of met everybody. So like, there's one little bedroom where like, we hear a fan, but like, we don't know who it is. So we open the door and we're like, "Oh, here he is. He's sleeping. Hi, thanks for checking in. Nice to meet you."
Yeah.
That was me and Beth. So yeah, we had to go all the way to Orlando, Florida to realize he lives like an hour and 10 minutes north of me.
Wow.
Well, that's fun. I think that's one of the core tenets of the detailers of the roundtable is trying to create an environment and bring opportunities for detailers to not only connect and network, but also to collaborate. And it's been fun to watch you guys take that first moment of meeting each other at the Airbnb MTE, and a year later, I think at least once a month, I see you guys working on some project together.
Yeah, and me collaborating with him and kind of working in somebody else's shop kind of let me, I collaborate with a lot of other detailers now. Like I've been traveling all summer with like 4 or 5 other people. So, it's funny we're doing this podcast now because this is literally what I've been doing all summer already. I've been on like 4 or 5, 6 trips to do other stuff. And me and him kind of pioneered doing that about a year and a half ago when we started kind of doing all that stuff. So it's been really awesome.
Yeah, my first time I ever held a Flex PX80 was in Tim's shop. So I was able to try out a new machine and see other products and other setups. And you don't go in thinking, this guy's doing it better or this guy sucks or anything like that. You just, how can I improve what I'm doing or what are they doing that's, making them grow? And I think we just kind of bounce things off one another. The funny thing is that we'll argue like brothers on the right and wrong way of doing things. But at the end of the day, it's just to better ourselves and better our business. Mm-hmm. And the whole, I'd like to think, yes, we're trying to better an industry, but not everybody sees it that way. And you have to be open to knowing that. Dustin Jackson talked on his podcast yesterday with Mike, where they did a live about how there's 90,000 detailers in the United States registered.
Yep.
But that doesn't include like all the unregistered ones that, fly by they come out when spring hits.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I think the key to that, though, is, I mean, we all see it, right? You guys have been to several trainings. I've been at multiple trainings where you guys are there, whether it was PDP or something by the round table or just, another training at Rupes. The key there, though, is that when you're at that training, let's say there's 7 people there, you can knock out a freaking Suburban in like 15 minutes. So you really see the power of having multiple people working together in those instances. But then everybody goes back to their shop, and they kind of ignore that fact, because I would much rather work with somebody else on something like you guys do, where you're working on a 38-foot boat, which is insane for a single person to do. But 2 people, it's almost like one person takes 4 hours, 2 people takes an hour and a half. It's almost like there's actually more time that goes away when you have another person.
Yeah, people think it's only like double or half, but it's almost way more than that when you both know, like this, like you said, we're the same trainings and stuff. We do a lot of stuff similar. So like he'll come to my shop and be like, why do you do that way? And then I'll explain it. And I'll be like, why do you have that over there that way? And he'll be like, well, this is why. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that, but I thought of this. So it's like in how he has his towels, like I was going to do it the one way and like waste a bunch of time like putting vinyl stickers on it, and he did it with like laminated paper, and I was like, oh, I can move those, like just little tiny stuff that like you would waste so much time on that other people have already thought about it, like, but I'm over here wasting 20 minutes Googling stuff, trying to build a freaking laundry hamper, and I'm like, oh, look at it, you already
it's funny, the laundry thing I got from another shop.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Here in Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah, and I get it from people's shops when we go to them. So, for instance, like when I do something, I was doing my 3/4 ton truck 4-door, right? And I set up on both sides. I set up the identical settings, so I have the same polish, the same compounds, the same in the same order, left to right. But I have one on each side, and that way I don't have to move my product back and forth. I can just go around and do whatever I need to do. And if I'm, for instance, if I do like the bed side, the rear, the one bed side, then I'll go do the other bed side, and I just kind of flip everything. But I learned that from somebody else. It wasn't something that I just knew. I mean, I always just started at one end and went around, and by the time you get around to the backside, you're moving your crap 3 times just to get there. So.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So what was something? So I went to just a P&S thing, and they were talking about doing pad setup on a car.
Yep.
And just, as you're going around the car, you don't want to change your pad the whole time or have to wash them. You just set pads up on the car. So that's what I do from now on. And it's the strangest time saver, but you just kind of build off what other people are doing,
Yeah.
And it's funny because Tim's taught me a ton about interiors and even exterior washing on how to make that more productive. We both come from a manufacturing background where some millionaire, billionaire paid someone to make sure things were getting done the fastest way. So we both kind of have this weird mindset still of, keeping things close to us and making sure everything's ergonomic and, but being organized in a way that maybe somebody else isn't thinking about.
Yeah, those efficiencies can save, minute here and a minute there, but you don't think about that until the end when you've just saved 35, 40 minutes on a job. And I think that's what's key to it is, I'm kind of an efficiency nut when it comes to certain things, because I'm like, why are you moving that car 5 times? You shouldn't be moving that car 5 times. Just bring it in once. And one thing that we learned from Nathan Warren when we were in Indianapolis is that he is...
Which time? We're always there.
Exactly. One of the first times I was there, I learned this about his shop, is he brings in the vehicles on Monday and does all the wet work on all the cars. And he tells his clients that they have to leave the car there the whole week. They bring it in on Monday, they get it back on Friday. So if he has 5 cars, he washes 5 cars the first day. Then the next day he does like the interiors, but he does everything efficiency that way, and he can put out a bunch of cars as a single operator shop because of the efficiencies he's built into it.
Yeah, instead of redoing it 5 times. I remember that too, and I was just like, I never even thought to like do that, because some people, instead of telling them, 2 or 3 days, what's 4 or 5, honestly, you know what I mean? Like if they're going to get a car or a ride, like it's really not that far. And like you said, Monday is, wet day. Tuesday is interior day. Wednesday is complete rotary day. Thursday is finishing day, and then let the paint breathe. Friday is coating, or, however you want to do that. And then Saturday is pickup or whatever, because you need it to cure overnight. Yeah, that was something. And I kind of do stuff like that too. I'll try to group stuff. That way it's all out instead of getting all the polish out, all this out, all that out. Because, I don't leave everything out all the time, but it's like, why put it completely away when I'm going to be doing it again, or an entire process a whole nother time? Yep.
Well, one of the things that I've learned from Jackie Orlando, as we've brought Detail Bookie into the RotoFest family, doing these demos and stuff, she's like, look, I organize my week by the types of projects I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I dedicate Thursdays to boats, because we all know a boat's going to take you a lot longer than 3 cars or whatever. And she can block out schedules in a way that makes it efficient for her, and it enables her to plan the right resources, because a lot of times she's collaborating with other detailers to do the work that she's lined up. And so it allows her an opportunity to not only organize the type of work, but also collaborate with people to get more work than she could do as an individual.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
The other side of it is there's 2 sides of this coin. One, yes, we can all learn from one another. But the other side is not everybody's competition.
Right.
No.
Yeah, what do you mean by that, Brian? Because I think a lot of, especially newer guys, even older, more seasoned guys, boy, they don't even want to have a conversation with another detailer in their market.
I think you're missing out. I think when you're not a part of different organizations, going to the right trainings, not just training, period. Like you can get the wrong training. Like the guy selling you a $600 training, and maybe he's been doing it for 10 years, he still might not be the guy to learn from. But trained professionals by professional companies, these are the correct trainings to go to. MTE is a great example of that. Because you're not only training during the day, you're training at night when you're at the right house. But, like most of the guys around me, I don't know them. If I do know them, but they don't want to collaborate, they don't want to send work, they don't, but I have a mobile PDR guy that does PPF. I will still send him work. I will still send him PPF work. There's a mobile detailer in the area. He's inquired about IGL, but I don't do anything mobile anymore. I send everybody to him. And some of these guys will still reach out, but there's some talking there, but there's no collaboration. I would think like Tim and Mike Ryan are a great example of what collaborating looks like when you couldn't be in somebody's back door, because those 2 are working on boats that technically either one could have gotten separately, but they're doing it together. They're providing a service for a client. They're providing a high quality professional service for a client, and nobody's the wise. Nobody cares about the money at the end of the day. It's just, that's between them, and then the work just gets done. And it's not just any work, it's some of the best work. Yeah. And I think we missed that, because when you work with someone who, there he is, Mike Ryan, who has a skill set with gel coat, and you have someone like Timothy who has a skill set with paint, and then you put them together, and magic just happens. I know it sounds cliche, but it's what happens.
Right. No, it's very true. That's so funny you said that, because everything's better in pairs, but no, it really is, because he's been doing boats for I'm not going to age him, but over 25 years. He's been in the game a long time. And even me and him, like you said, we're not going to take projects from each other. We were doing this big giant freaking, I don't even remember the brand of the boat, because we've done so many together lately. It was me, him, his girlfriend Nicole, and our other friend Marcus. And somebody approached us kind of as a team and was like, hey, I have a question about this boat that's next to us. And before Mike even answered the question, he was like, do you want to do it? Do you want it by yourself? He looked at Marcus, because he was another guy up from Detroit. He's like, do you want to do that? And I was like, I'm not really from here. I'm already under you. I'm good. You have it. You know what I mean? And then Mike went and did the test spot and talked to the guy. And it was just we're not going to take jobs from each other, because just like his comment said, there are so many boats. There's so many cars. Like, everybody's got 5 or 6 cars hidden away. They don't even drive. Like, so if you find the right, people, there's so many detailers out there, and that's totally fine. Nurses aren't mad at other nurses, and like, I don't want to compare that to that or anything like that, because but like, you do have to compare stuff to make it make sense sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, other hairdressers aren't like, oh my God, I can't believe you. Like, there's somebody for a cut. Like, my cousin, she don't really do this. She does more or less cutting. She don't really like the color wheel. Not everybody does every single aspect. That's why we can all do stuff. Like, he does tint and PPF. I don't do that yet.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to people being afraid. Jody talks about this all the time when he talks to people about, they call it living in fear. When you're in fear of somebody taking something away from you that you don't already have, right? You don't already have that job. So the fact that you see another detailer working on a car doesn't mean that job was taken away from you. That could be their uncle, their grandma. It could be theirs. It could be whatever. They could have been doing it for 40 years. So people have this fear that something's getting taken away from them. And I think that's why they get into this bashing mentality. And the thing is like social media, if you're out there all day just trashing other detailers, why aren't you working? Why aren't you actually doing something? I mean, if you've got time to go out there and just completely, make negative comments on every single post and tell everybody they're doing it wrong, maybe you should try to get out of the internet and go polish a boat or something.
And I think one of the challenges with fear, right? There are moments in our life, in our business, where something new comes, a new competitor, a new opportunity,
Sure.
And you name the scenario. And it's easy to be fearful, but fear is just false evidence already recognized. The key on that is false, right? We jump to the expectation, oh, I'm going to lose this business, when you haven't done the things to earn the business. And what I see with you guys, and that's a perfect example that you shared with Timmy, is there were 3 of you together collaborating, working to make a customer's have a successful experience and product. And you guys are like, you know what? I'm not in this neck of the woods. I'm under you. Why don't you take that? Dude, when you start having those kind of interactions with each other, I guarantee you, all 3 of you are going to continue to grow, and your business is going to grow, and you as an individual are going to grow, because as you guys have already shared, you're learning efficiencies from each other.
Yeah.
You have to have a shift in mindset. You really do.
Yeah.
And if you're going to work in this industry and want to see it get bigger and better, then you have to set your ego to the side. Because at the end of the day, your ego's not doing anything but holding you back. Mm-hmm. So, like, I've had Jessica Rook in here. Her shop is 45 minutes from me. I've had Brandon go to my shop, who's about 55 minutes to an hour from me. Both offer the exact same services I do. Both offer all the same stuff and are very highly skilled. Technically, to someone else, they might be competition. I just had a gentleman in here, Darren. He comes in on Wednesdays and tints and helps out in here, and we all hang out. And it's been great because I've learned a little bit of tint from him. But he just came in. He got some tint cut. Was happy to do that for him. He doesn't have to pay for the software, buy a plotter. We worked that out. So, but he's not competition, and he's 40 minutes or so from me.
Yeah.
It's funny the friends you can make, the relationships you can have, and what you can do when you just set your ego aside and are ready to grow.
Yeah. But
when Timothy looked at me one day, he goes, I don't know how to rotary, or I'm scared of the rotary. I don't remember what you said.
Yeah, when we first met, we were just like, oh, what do you do? And this and that. And he was just like, you don't rotary? And I was like, no, not yet. Because I was only like 2.5 years into detailing compared to like my almost 5 now. And I was like, no. And he was like, all right, well, before you leave, he gave me a rotary and like every possible pad that exists for rotaries, like from every brand, like not just 1 or 2, it was like 15. And he was like, call me when you're done. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, use it. And I was like, okay. So literally, probably without him for real throwing me a rotary, I probably wouldn't be able to collaborate with Mike and do boats and do all that other stuff that I do now, because when you're comfortable, like why would I Why would I make something harder on myself? You know what I mean? Like, and when we work by ourselves, it's hard to check on some of these bigger skill sets for detailers. It's hard to know if you're doing some of this stuff right, because not everybody can learn from a YouTube video, because we're not going to talk about our secret project we're working on, but like it's hard to tell what kind of pressure people are using, and like things aren't as easy. Not everybody can gain everything from a YouTube video.
Right.
Some of these Facebook groups, they're like, watch this YouTube video. It's like that didn't like
you can learn how to turn it on, and you can learn certain things from watching a YouTube video. But I was liking it to something like a chainsaw or some other kind of a dangerous tool that can take your fingers off. Right. You can watch 100 YouTube videos of somebody using a saw, but until you've actually done it and you feel the pull of it, you don't know. You do not know at all what it's like. The same as with the rotary. And I think people are just scared of it because it can cut that. It's the most heavy cut you can do. And so they're fearful. Again, we all have fears. We all have, you look at paint on any object and you're like, okay, am I 100% sure that there's not one section that's been redone? No. Am I 100% sure that there's things we can do? We can put a paint thickness gauge on metal and you can go, oh, okay, it's got 4 mils. I can breathe a little bit. But you can't do that on a boat. You can't do that on fiberglass. You can't know what is under that substrate. And when you measure that paint, you don't know if that's paint and primer, or if it's clear coat paint primer, or if it's single stage, you have a little better idea because there's no clear coat, but you still don't know what's underneath of it. So there's an innate fear of touching stuff. And I have a friend, I won't call her out on the podcast, but she's very cautious jumping into certain things. And I've been to a lot of detail trainings with her. She's really good, but she always kind of has that fear of getting in there and doing it until she gets her hands on it. And then she's great. She does wonderful work. And I always tell people, if you're not afraid of doing something, then you've gotten to the point where your ego is in the way. I don't care how many years I do.
All are, honestly. We just don't talk about it.
Yeah, you're fearful every time you pick something up. A polisher, you could go through the paint. You could hit an edge. You could tear up on a convertible. You could tear up the convertible top if it gets out of control. All kinds of stuff. We all saw that video a couple months ago. The guy on the roof and his polisher basically explodes because he did the washer mod on the polisher, which you're not supposed to do. But anyway, everybody watched that, and I know everybody was just like, "Oh man, I never want that to happen to me." So that's not a bad thing to have that fear. It can be a good motivator to keep you honest and to be like, okay, I need to make sure I don't get up against the edge. Whenever I'm using my like a 3-inch in rotary mode, or like a 1-inch in rotary mode and everything, I have a tendency to not want to spend the time to tape something off. So you got that little bit of fear when you get close to that edge. You got that little bit of fear. But
a $3 roll of tape is some good insurance.
Yeah, it is. So but the thing about that is like, for instance, and Mike Carlin's going to jump on here. Who them people? Hi, Mike. So one of the things I was going to just talk about, it's ironic that he jumped in. We were at an Aegis training in Wisconsin at Mike's shop, and I could just see the fear on people's face the first time they touched that paint gun. And I'm like, it's just a material. You're just atomizing the material and you're spraying it on in a mist instead of wiping it on. Once people got it in their hand and they understood that it's not going to bite them, the paint gun isn't going to, it's just a different way to put that material on the vehicle. But you have to get it in your hands. And I think that is the fear of people working together. Is this guy going to learn stuff from me? Is this gal going to take all my secrets? What if they take all my customers? And so then once you guys work together, both of you guys are just down to earth people, right? What you see is what you get, right? There's no ego hiding the real Ryan Timothy, right?
Well, let's be honest. There's a fear of exposing that you're not doing it right. That you're going to go into a scenario and you're not going to have the same level of skills. And we're like holding back because we're ashamed or we lack confidence in where we are, instead of going, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to work side by side. I'm going to bring my skills to the table, to the opportunity, and I just might learn something, and it's okay, because I think a lot of times when someone comes over, and the perfect example of this is when Rod and I were at the Rupes training, and Rod was working on a polisher, and he comes over. I forget who it was. Mark Elliott.
Mark Elliott.
And he goes, put a little bit more pressure. Rod didn't get offended. He goes, oh, right. And I think a lot of times our ego gets checked and we get offended instead of looking at it as somebody trying to help us elevate.
Right. And here's Mike,
I'll touch on that. We were at the SEMA Garage training recently with IGL and APEX, and I had sent my employee, and we provided the boat. Well, I went for day one to kind of hang out and see a bunch of friends, basically. And it was my first chance to meet Jordan Lee. If you haven't met her, she's awesome. But I was polishing the back of a boat. I mean, I pretty much thought I knew what I was doing, pretty much whatever. So I just had a nano in my hand, and I'm just sitting there polishing. And Robin Sweet says something, and I went, well, no, I don't. And I went, why do you do it that way? And I learned something that fast.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
The next week we had a boat in the shop, and I did it the way she said to do it, and it was faster. It was just a better look, and I was just astonished. I'm like, if you're open-minded and don't get offended, you can hear how things can be done a different way and better.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's got a different way to load their pad. There's always going to be this argument. How many dots? Should you spread it out? Do you do this? Do you do that? And I don't know, and I don't care, to be honest with you. I know it works for me. I know it's efficient for me, but there's always that chance that I'm going to learn something new. Like, I would love to polish with Mike Ryan because the guy's got just this wealth of knowledge. Rashid Baker's another good one.
It's hard to keep up with, trust me.
Rashid would be a great one. I'd love to polish with Rashid one day.
You should.
Oh gosh, Rashid is so good.
It's hilarious because Rashid is such a humble guy and he's so much fun. But Rashid has so many skills in so many different areas. And I mean, honestly, I'm going to tell you that I everybody's probably heard my story of working on cars in the 80s and restoring cars and painting cars and all that stuff. I think people get sick of hearing me say it. But I went into Rashid's shop and he had some engine cowls and he's like, okay, you're going to go do the engine cowls. And I'm thinking, I was like, okay.
What do you mean?
Because when you tell people that, it doesn't matter how much you sound like you're just, you're humble, but you just go, hey, I've painted before. All of a sudden, people have this expectation, and you still have that fear. I mean, it was the same thing when we were in Mike Carlin's shop doing the Aegis. It was like, yes, I've had a paint gun in my hand, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Those guys have that box that IGL has of how you set it up and exactly how you set up the paint gun. They've done the research on that. And I don't care how many paint guns I've had in my hands. I'm going to listen to what they're saying because, you go along. The old joke about how guys don't ever read instructions, right? I'm very guilty of doing that myself. But if you read the instructions, there's a reason it goes A, B, C, D, and it doesn't go A, D, E. They've tried it out. So I think a lot of it is just being humble, no matter how good you are, no matter what your skills are. I mean, it's kind of like Jason Kilmer in sanding, right? The guy is the sanding guru, but he is the most humble guy you'll ever meet in your life and give you instruction on how to do it. And he'll say, this is the way I do it. And I think that's a key for me when I hear somebody say, well, this is the way I do it, but there's other ways to do it. That's kind of that, just saying it works for me. You find your own method.
Yeah. The other phrase that I've heard is, in my opinion, this is why I do this. Or I've also heard, in my experience, this is what I've learned. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's kind of indirectly putting it back on you, the person speaking, instead of going, oh, dude, you're doing it wrong. Why the hell are you doing it like that? Well, that's the way I've done it my whole life. Right.
Oh, somebody just tells me, just fine, do whatever you want.
What about oven cleaner? He didn't believe me at first about oven cleaner.
No, and it shouldn't have worked. It really shouldn't have worked. And I wish I understood.
Whoa. You got to elaborate. What is this oven cleaner?
All right, so I don't get a lot of firsts anymore, it feels like. But I got a first. And it was a kid had backed up a car and scratched this car. Something awful. and obviously other cars were involved. Well, to hide it, he decided to rattle can some paint on the car. And not just a small section. I'm talking front fender to rear fender.
Oh gosh.
And it was like yay wide. And I don't know why I thought to call him, but I called him. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm like, I don't have a problem taking the job on. I'm like, there's got to be a better way to take this stuff off. Because all I thought was acetone at first, which you can use.
It would have took forever to do it little tiny section by section. That would have took forever.
Yeah, and it wasn't. He tells me, get such and such cleaner. It's still here in the shop. Sprayed it on, let it sit for like 60 seconds. It literally wiped that paint off. Mm-hmm. Just wiped it off. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was dumbfounded. I have no idea still why it worked. I don't know why it reacts the way it is, because the paint that was underneath was safe. Did not hurt the clear coat, did not hurt the paint underneath.
So that was a trick I learned in the tow lot where my shop used to be, because this is my new shop by myself. Yay. But before I had a brick and mortar location, I was mobile, and my first brick and mortar location was inside of a body shop that had 24/7 tow lots. So like, them would be destroyed by somebody's ex. Like somebody, would break in and, spray paint their own car because like, once it becomes the tow lots after like 90 days, then they can sell it. So they try to get revenge on the tow lot, even though it's like they literally towed it for the police. So there were some interesting cases. So the year and a half, 2 years I spent there with those body shop guys, it was all kinds of fun little stupid tricks like that. And my one buddy Ross, he was like, yeah, spray paint oven cleaner. And I was like, what? Because it was funny. The reason why he thought that was so funny is because like he had made the comment like, oh, car stuff is for cars, house stuff is for house. And I'm like, yeah, but now that I learn more stuff, like a lot of these carpet cleaners and stuff is developed for like the stuff we use is like developed for like commercial restaurants and stuff like that. So when you apply that same science to other aspects like detailing and stuff like that, it can really work. And that science is really powerful. But oven cleaner for the win.
Yeah, it was a lot of like anything else. It was making sure, like even a water spot remover, you want to make sure it's neutralized at the end. So yes, the car got a full bath. It was fully neutralized at the end. It's not like I just put it on and just let it sit. There was a process.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Yep. But Timothy, he had this process already, and I just listened to what he said, whether or not I trusted it fully or not, and we went with it. But we did a test.
Well, I sent you that video, that blue Ford Ranger. Remember that blue Ford Ranger that had the black spray paint all over the side of it? That was the video I sent you. He's like, well, I don't even know if that's true. And I was like, well, here's proof. Go to my Instagram. Like, I'm done listening to you question me. Use it.
See, he just says fine, whatever, do what he wants. See? He does it to me all the time.
Yep. I was like, I don't believe you, just do it. Just do it.
If you really want to know where I learned about collaboration, it's where Jody and I think Rod was there. But it was
no, he wasn't.
It was the Falcon 1 project.
Which backyard was this?
I wasn't there.
You watch, what was it? We had 26 detailers, I think, or 26 individuals.
Yeah.
And it was multiple coating companies. It's multiple detail supply companies. It's multiple detailers, all in one spot to do one thing. We had a set training that IGL hosted. I've made lifelong friends from that event alone. I think that's, where Jody and I's relationship started. It's where I got to see, it's funny you see someone like Mike Carlin doing all this stuff, but the guy knows how to polish. Mm-hmm. Marcus Parsley was out there and he was polishing. It's where I met Sarah. And got to work on the belly of a plane with Sarah. It's where I met Dee Davis. You meet all these amazing people, and I learned so much on that trip. But it kind of goes back to what Rod had said too. Don't tell people you know how to do something, because then I ended up at the tail of this plane polishing it like this. Because I was the one who knew how to run that lift.
That's right.
When I raised my hand and said, I know how to run a lift, that's who ended up in the lift.
Yep. Well, and I think that's the thing about that is I think everybody has that story of they going to an event and meeting somebody for the first time, and then it turned into a relationship. Jody and I, literally, when we first got into the detailing industry, we didn't know anybody in the detailing industry. I get introduced to Mike Phillips. I had no idea who the guy was. They're like, "This is Mike Phillips." I'm like, "Hey," so it's that kind of mentality that I'm there to absorb. When I go to an event, whether or not Jody and I are doing podcasts, or we're actually helping with the event, or we're doing training on a CRM, or we're just working, I learn something at every single event I go to, every single time. It doesn't matter. And we've been doing this for a long time. We go to hundreds of events. I always learn something from somebody. And I end up putting those tools in there. And just like everybody, I'm like, I can use that. I probably won't use that because I don't do a lot of XYZ. But you never know what's going to come around. I mean, the reason that there's these 2 products on my chest today is because of collaboration. I was very humbled when I talked to Dustin and he said, "You're the only guy I would sell this to." And it really meant a lot to me because we want products to continue, good products to continue. IGL, Mike and Dustin buying the IGL USA. We want the products to continue to grow and continue to become better. Anything like that. I mean, we all hate it when a product goes out of business that's useful, right? I mean, you're like, damn, I use that all the time. What are they going to replace it with, So I think that that's the same with people. We want everybody to succeed. And I truly do. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to succeed at what they're doing. Sometimes what they're doing is not the maybe the best thing for them, right? I've seen people that have been in one industry and they just kind of go mediocre and then they change and all of a sudden they just go nuts, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what everybody's trying to do, is find that one thing or those 2 things that they really do well that they can execute on.
And not everybody wants that.
Yeah.
I haven't had much interaction with him, but I know somebody that, I don't know if he's still on, but Tommy's a great one for this, for Angel Wax. Always wanting to collaborate. And I love that. And I won't speak for you guys, but hey, Tate.
He's obviously talking about Timothy.
Well, he's the best looking guy on here. So
he's the youngest.
He's all got the nails and the coiffed hair and everything. Man, he's always looking like $1 million with an attitude.
Well, I don't want to speak for you guys or everybody, but me personally, I learn the most and am receptive the most to somebody who doesn't bash others in our industry.
Yeah.
If I walk in, say, from Mike Phillips and I get a training, and then I go to Sarah and I get a training, both have never said a bad word about one another, I'm going to learn. I'm going to be more receptive to learn from those people because I think my trust is up and my guard is down. Because then I'm not in fear that when I walk out of the room, you're talking crap about me too.
Yeah.
And
right. And
I think there's been instances where things like that have happened. And I remember Rennie Doyle said something to me once at an MTE, actually where Timothy and I met. And it was an interesting year. Don't get me wrong. It was an interesting MTE. It was bound to have some fireworks eventually if people didn't kind of diffuse some things. And he said, if we're going to talk about so-and-so, then we're going to go find so-and-so and we're all going to have that conversation. Otherwise, that conversation's not happening. That man will not talk about other people, or at least won't around me.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't. There's no point to that.
Right. And I think that is staying out of those conversations. There was one time where an owner of a large chemical company, and I'm not going to say who it was for this very reason, but a large chemical company called Jody on the phone. Jody put it on speaker. Hey, good morning. How are you doing? Great, man. How are you doing? Hey, I just wondered, did you, are you okay? We said, yeah, we're fine. What's going on? Well, I understood one of our guys said something about you guys, and you guys got into. Jody goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, no, seriously, you guys know what we're talking about. It's been all over the internet. And Jody goes,
I have no idea.
Don't know what you're talking about, and I
never heard of her.
Don't want to know. I don't care. And it's it's hard because we all get in those situations. And I guess the key to that is you just have to be yourself. And I always say this is this: don't give somebody else the permission to change the way you feel. Right? If somebody starts talking about you and all of a sudden you become the psycho that's going to go out there and bash them and go crazy, and that's not your normal personality, you're giving them the permission to affect you. And you can't do that. I mean, there's so many times that I would say, like I said this to Rain Albertson and Tommy at the Shine Time Expo. I was like, you guys are just unapologetically yourself. Timothy, you're the same way. Unapologetically. This is who I am. If you don't like it, that's fine. You're not rude about it. Anybody, right? You're the same way. It's just like, look, this is who I am. And if you can't handle that, that's on you. That's not on me. And I think that's the best way to be, is just you're yourself. And people know when they're being a dick. They know it. That's usually why they get upset about it, is they know they're being a dick. So, just don't be a dick.
Like, and I don't like certain grocery stores. So guess what? I'm not gonna go to them. I'm not gonna protest them either. I'm just not gonna go. Like, It's really that simple. Like,
yep.
I don't expect everybody to have the same kind of relationship Tim and I have. I've shared meals, slept in the guy's house, hung out with his dog, driven to trainings, so we've had time to connect. We've polished next to one another. He's been to my home. He's met my family. Like, I know every relationship's not like that. I get that. But, it's all about perspective. And quite honestly, I don't meet a lot of bad people in our industry. I just meet some people that are a little skewed on how to run a business and maybe how to treat people. And unfortunately, when they don't want to listen, they're also the ones that you don't hear about very often, or they're the ones that end up with a shop that's closed.
Yeah.
Because their mindset just isn't on people. But at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. They're just cars. We're not curing cancer. It's just paint. It's just gel coat. It's just a job, But who are you when the social media is not going? Who are you when the camera's not on? Who are you when nobody else is around? Are you the same person?
Yeah, that's the key, is when you're looking at the guy in the mirror, that's when it comes down to, except for me, I'm kind of iffy. We all know that. So I think that's the key, is when you look at yourself and you're all alone, the kind of person you are. And I think so many people are in detailing for the right reasons, and yet some people are in any business, not detailing, any business, for the wrong reasons. And they think it's a battle. They think it's like World War job. I've got to go in and conquer. And I there's so much stuff on the internet that lies to you. And I know, hard to believe, but you got to kill it. You got to grind. You got to be up at 2 a.m. And this is not a war. This is what we do for a living, right? At the end of the day, and I've used this for so many years. Oh my gosh, I've used this. If somebody drops a sack full of money, so money is no longer an object, how many people are just going to scatter and never be heard from again? Right? They're doing it. Yeah.
Ryan's like, I'm out.
All of us. We're
I'm
all
out.
going to go do something different. I had a customer ask us that once. He goes, well, I'm interested in your software, but what happens if Google comes in and gives you guys millions and millions of dollars? And I said, you're going to never hear from me again. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. And I said, what would you do if you got millions of dollars? He's like, okay, makes sense. I mean, this is a lot of it's a means to an end. A lot of people do it because they love cars. A lot of people do it because they love boats. Mike does it because he's a pirate and he has to be around the ocean or he can't go get his booty. So the thing about it is we're all in it for a different reason. But at the end of the day, we're in it to take care of our friends and our families and everything else. And I think that's one of the reasons we connect with you guys so much. Jody and I are the same way. We've eaten at each other's houses. We've talked. We know each other's kids. We've spent an enormous amount of time. In fact, our wives say we spend more time together than we do apart.
That's true.
But and I know that if Jody had a problem and he called me up and said, "Hey, Rod, I need to bring my boat over. There's a problem with the motor," I'd be like, "Yeah, bring it in." It's not an issue. So, and it's not a competition, right? It's for me. I want everybody to elevate, no matter what they're doing, and I don't care if you're the independent person doing it in a very small town, or if you're the guy that's doing Lambos and Ferraris in Palm Beach. Doesn't matter. Still want you to be successful.
So I have a question for you to kind of in wrap up. If I owned a detail business, Rod knows this. If I owned a detail business, I would focus personally on boats. I love boats. That's my passion. I would not do PPF ever.
And you wouldn't want him to.
And you would not want me to, right? I have no aptitude. It frustrates the hell out of me. I would cut through the the PPF, right? But I would want to offer it as a service. So I would collaborate with somebody. So how do you guys, or what do you recommend for somebody that's never collaborated? What would you recommend for them in how to identify the right collaborator?
So I've done this. I have a service agreement with another shop, and if I send them the work, I can price it however I'd like. They will give me a price, and they will do the work, and that's our service agreement. And that is for PPF. I enjoy film, but it's time consuming. I'm better at reading film. Don't get me wrong; my knife skills are a lot better, but I am honestly personally backing off a little bit on film because I don't want to buy another 60-inch plotter right now and things like that. So while it's scary to lose the big job, the service agreement is that they would do the film. Um, they get their cut, I get mine, and then if I want the coating, then I just sell the coating. But you have to find people that you can trust to work with.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tim can find 100 other people to make him a boat graphic. But he contacted me. He wanted a boat graphic done. I actually went to a graphic designer that I trust. They took care of it. He paid them. He came up and picked it up the day it was done. So I think you just have to find people that you can trust. And really, it's about reading people. It really is. Mm-hmm. If people are different from one day to the next, or if they're constantly talking about so-and-so and this and that, and constantly in this negative space, they're probably not the right guy to collaborate with, or girl. I look at somebody like Jackie. If I lived in Florida, I would hate mobile detailing because it's so stinking hot and humid.
Mm-hmm.
But the girl's incredible, and she collaborates with everybody.
Yeah.
And I've always looked up to her. Like, she was somebody I wanted to meet at the MTE that I went to and met Tim at, because I've just always looked up to her like that.
Yeah.
Even when I had detail bookie, she was out there on the boards, making sure, always helping people. And that's how I've always known her, as somebody who helps people. Well, when I finally got the chance to meet her, she was the exact same person.
Yeah.
She's the sweetest, nicest person. I mean, don't upset her, and don't try and offend her, because she's going to offend you back.
Yeah,
have thick skin if you're going to try and go up against her, because she's smart.
Yeah, absolutely. She's
the
really
nicest person in the world, but if you're going to be mean, she's going to be mean back. So, and I've learned that, but I can respect that because that's me. So, and I think I knew Tim 5 minutes, and I said, if you ever get disrespected because of anything and everything that you're about, you let me know. But I needed him to trust me. It wasn't about me gaining something off him and him getting screwed, or him coming to my shop and all of a sudden he's stealing all my ideas. It wasn't anything like that. We just build these relationships, and it has to be about trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the same with anything, really. And I think that's part of the issue, is that going into a relationship, and there's two ways to go into it. You can either trust the person until they prove you wrong, or you can go in and not trust them until they prove you right. And there's a big difference there. So I think that the key to that is, I'd kick a small child if they're made to. Why are you kicking small children, Tayton?
He's saying he's going to Timothy's.
Pick him in the shin. He's not very tall.
Wow, a little kid throws a rock, and now Tayton's beating him up. So I think the key to that is going into it with an attitude. I mean, we see it all the time. Somebody will come to us and they're using a different software, and you can see that they sheepishly tell us, I really don't. I mean, it's fine,
dude. As long as you're using something and it's working.
I've helped people on other softwares. I had Kyle Camas from Colorado called me one day because he couldn't. He was, for some reason, he was talking to me anyway, but he told me he was having a problem with the software he uses, and I helped him walk through it. And he's like, I cannot believe you're helping me with so-and-so software. And I said, well, why wouldn't I? I want you to be able to be successful and do your job. Just, I'm not going to be that way. I mean,
right.
I like
software.
Yeah, if I like certain brands of cars, but I'm not going to like diss on somebody because they drive a different brand. That's just how it is. So
Right.
Great. Now I'm labeled as a
child kicker. You are. I'm gonna, dude. Don't bring your
That's
kids.
funny, man.
Apparently, keep your kids away from Tayton. I mean, Tayton, you look like you're 12 years old anyway. I mean, you might get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to answer that same question, Timothy, and from your
I would say honestly, like, because at first when I met Ryan, like I kind of asked him like, "Hey, what do you do?" You know, not like to figure out his competition, but it was immediately to figure out what can I learn from him, because like you said, we knew we both took some of the same classes. Like right when we met, we knew that we had been to some of the same classes, but I was like, all right, instead of spending thousands and thousands on that, like what can we learn from each other? You know, and like I said, I taught him some stuff about interiors and all kinds of stuff, and he gave me the rotary. So I would definitely say find somebody that, you know, might have a skill or two that you definitely don't have yet. You know, what's funny?
Chris.
I won't be your friend if you drive a Suzuki.
Okay, so there's one exception.
Come
Chris.
on.
That's the exception.
Come on, man.
Gotta draw the line. I get it.
Somewhere, agreed.
Chris, now
Agreed.
I'm offended. You don't know what's in
Agreed.
my driveway. Not a Suzuki.
So I think
Well, what's in your driveway?
That's funny.
Now I want a Suzuki tractor.
Oh, people know what a Yugo is.
Yeah, so I would say just find somebody that has a couple skills that, you know, you don't have, and you might quickly find out that you have a couple skills they don't have, and you can very quickly show each other some stuff. And, you know, everybody's got an extra tool, you know, here and there hanging out for this or that. So he was like, here, take my rotary. And, you know, I was like, hey, do you use these chemicals for this? And he was like, no, I don't know what that is. So I was like, here, well, let me mix you up some. Here's a couple spray bottles, you know, tell me if you like it or not, you know, and all kinds of fun
actually,
stuff like that.
Speaking of that, he's the one who got me to try angel wax polishes.
Yeah.
Redemption and Resurrection are actually still in my cabinet, and there's something I love.
What the hell?
I won't be your friend if you have a Jeep without any ducts.
Well, Ken,
I took care of that so that you can be his
more
friend.
Ducks than any human.
Oh, I thought Ken was gonna be like on the other side of the counter or something there.
This was the closest duck to me right now. So
there's another one back behind Jody somewhere right back here, but we have the pirate duck today and or the bandit duck. You
have the Mike Ryan.
Yeah, I have the Mike Ryan. Yeah. And then I don't know who the bandit duck is.
This is Jody.
I have the gay sailor in my backpack.
There you go. That's perfect.
A bandit duck might be Tayton Trout for, you know, kicking small children.
It is.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
You got to put the glasses on. So that's awesome. I love it. And I think that's what's fun is people doing things that are fun. It's been really fun knowing the two of you guys. And I mean, Ryan, you have this kind of dry sense of humor that's absolutely awesome. And then Timothy, you're just
flamboyant. You fantastic.
I mean, I still tell people about you trying to buy a sconce and a cup from a bar we were at once, and you know, I won't go into details there, but that was an absolute.
I tipped him like $30, so he was like, "It's fine, I won't look." So
yeah, I know it was awesome.
Is that here? Awesome. No, it's on top of my kitchen. It's on top of my cabinet. I was gonna say, I thought I brought it here, but I have other acquired cups here from trips.
So this is actually Timothy, right?
$30, a wink and a smile, and you got something.
That's right.
Awesome,
that's right. He flashed his baby blues and got something.
Well, dudes, we want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us. This has been an absolutely valuable and fun conversation. And it's been fun to watch you guys collaborate, you know, with the two of you, with Mike Breen, Care, and Rashid. And it's just fun to see what can be accomplished when you open your mind to collaboration. Because I think a lot of times when we have the mindset of competition, our mindset is protective, not expansive. So let's expand opportunities for all of us.
You think you're the absolute best at everything all the time. So you're not really willing to be like, oh my God, I might be wrong, or I might be doing, like you said, the alphabet thing. Like, of course you can do A to Z, but like, it actually does matter how you get A, B, C. Like, there's a process for a reason. And like, if you start to circumnavigate that process, your results are going to start to fail, your customers' expectations are going to start to go down, and you really can't skip certain processes. And working with all these other people and going to all these other trainings, it's just, making sure your ABCs are always your ABCs, and that's the best thing about it.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. We really appreciate it. And tune in every week, Thursdays. Another training coming up that the Roundtable's doing is in Colorado in
June. The last weekend of June
is for Tate and Trout and us, and we're putting together
the motorcycle training.
So Angel Wax is going to be there.
Yeah, you can get Angel Wax cert, IDA motorcycle cert. And so, yeah, I think this is the last week you can sign up. So get out there and get registered so that you can take advantage of that. And anything else?
No last words.
Happy Pride Month.
That's good. Well, thank you guys so much. Please, guys, if you haven't connected with Ryan and Timothy, it's Ryan Griggs, Blue Line Detailing on Facebook, and then Timothy Mills. You can see him everywhere. Attention to details. And he's just got a fun personality, does amazing work. Both of these guys do amazing work. And so let's look at this one last comment, and then we're going to bout. Dates for shrink wrap training are in.
There's gonna be a shrink wrap training for boats.
I need the dates, Mike, because my wife was drilling me last night. She goes, "Do you have any events in October?" I don't know. I go, "Why do you need to know?" She goes, "I just need to know." So I need those dates. I don't know what my wife's cooking up. She's always cooking up something. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tapping in. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we will check you same time, same Matt channel just next week.